Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. As you know, right about now, New Japan continues with more of the New Japan Cup. But however, we got the quarterfinals. So we'll see who will be heading to the semifinals there. And I think we do have possibly a preview match on this one as well. And then we move on with NXT, of course, where they made their way to Houston, which is the hometown, of course. It's time, suckers! Well, Booker T's to have a Booker T Appreciation Day. But however, as you know, it's Stand and Deliver season, so we're going to have plenty title matches as we head to Stand and Deliver. The NXT Women's Championship is on the line, so is the Women's Speed Championship. And then, of course, the main event is the Women's North American Championship on the line in a steel cage match, which is going to be a slobber knocker. So we'll see how things will go from there. But, however, first things first, as you already know, Stardom has wrapped up the Cinderella Tournament with this year's winner. But the real question is, who won? But it does feature, of course, two title matches. The future of Stardom is on the line, and so is the CML Japan Women's title. However, the main event had a very interesting post-match that I think many people would want to talk about, and I'll explain a little bit about that as we go. And then, as always, we'll wrap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates. They give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Nagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, let's begin with Stardom. Okay, the conclusion of Stardom's Cinderella Tournament. So as you know, it happened just recently this past Sunday on March 15th at the Yokohama Budokan. So it's a bittersweet, but the real question is, who will be heading to the finals to become this year's Cinderella winner? Well, let's begin with the semifinals. First, we have Aya Sakura and Hanan. Now remember guys, if you guys are Stardom fans, you know exactly that 2 years ago, Hanan was the winner. But however, of course, her challenge was for the white belt, which was unsuccessful. And I believe the champion at the time was Sayori Anu at the time, but unsuccessful. But this time she faces Aya Sakura. Now, I don't know if fans were hoping You know, that, okay, last year we did had a Cosmic Angel win it. Maybe another one could do it, which obviously would have been clear. But nope. Hanan, as you know, has far more better experience than Aya Sakura, and she applied the backdrop driver onto her, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she goes to the finals. Next up, we have Rina versus Miyu Amasaki. So of course, Rina, as you know, she is aiming to win this entire tournament due to the fact that last year she lost. But she was not going to let this one be denied to her, no matter what. And of course, we were going to see her usual antics to prove her point that this is her victory, nobody else's. And that's exactly what she tried to do. She even tried to punish Amasaki in any way possible. And she did that by submitting her. And just like that, Amasaki had to give up. And just like that, she heads to the finals. But the question is, who's going to walk out of these two sisters? Will it be Hanan or her little sister Rina? That's a very good question. So we'll see what happens. Now, our next match, we have a very interesting combination. We have Kyoko Furuzawa, Rian, Kyoka Kotatsu, and Maki Ito. They take on the combined forces of a very interesting one. We have Mivita Loka, Izuki Aoki, and Rina Yamashita all dressed up in their Secret Service outfits for Saki Kashima once again. However, they're not the only ones. So is Shuri, and I'm like, I thought it was great. You know, I thought it was a fantastic moment. I mean, look, as you all know, Kashima is going to retire next month, and it makes sense that give her a little bit of the spotlight, and that plays out pretty well. And not to mention, it was Shuri who made the knockout blow onto Furuzawa, but they gave the glory up to Saki Kashima, and I thought it was a fantastic way. Come on, you win it just like that, and it was a fantastic way. Now, our next match, we had a very interesting 10-woman tag team match. We have, of course, the members of Cosmic Angels, Sayuri Anu and Yuna Mizumori. They teamed up with Ane Kanaya, Xena, and Maika. They take on Fuwa-chan, and she teams up with Stars, consistent of Yuta Him, Momokogo, B. Priestley, and Saya Ida. So obviously it was going to be a good match. Of course, as you all know, that Fuwa-chan has her fair issues towards Sareee Anu. We've been seeing that often, and I'm sure it's going to be a big play later. But, however, it was Ida to pick up the win when she applied a big lariat onto Kanaya, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, in the post-match, well, here we go again with Fuwa-chan and Sayuri Anu taking it outside of the ring. And of course, things get a little haywire. But later, it did told these two will face off each other at the All-Star Queendom next month, which, of course, we'll talk about that in a bit. Whew. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze here. Now, our next match, we have Spark Rush, consistent of Takumi Iroha of Marvelous, and, of course, the Sun God herself, Sareee, taking on the other members of Mivita Loka, consistent of Akira Kurigani and Suzuki. Now, of course, Kurigani, I have to say she has shown a lot of guts, despite of her limited experience as a wrestler, but she refuses to give up. But unfortunately, she ended up being double-teamed by both Takumi when she applied a sit-down powerbomb, but it was Sareee who picked up the win when she applied a jackknife, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our next match, this is for the Future of Stardom Championship. We have Rane Yagami versus Hanako. Now, of course, this was a match that was decided. Yagami has introduced everybody a brand new wrestling gear, and I thought it was a pretty impressive one. But now she has to face someone who's a bit more stronger, who has maybe a year of experience than her, and that played out pretty well. And then all of a sudden, of course, we all know that Hanako would use whatever experience she has learned, not to mention the submission move that Shinsuke Nakamura has taught her, and of course the JP Koso she inherited from Himeka. And just like that, however, it was Yagami who picked up the win with a buzzsaw, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done, brand new champion. And of course, we did see in the post-match promo, some words were exchanged between them, but however, Yagami has nominated Aya Sakura as her first challenger. So that could happen in the next New Blood event. Now, our next match, we have a three-way uh, quartet match, of course. Team number one, we have God's Eye, consisting of Tomoka Inaba, Lady C, Hina, and Ami Suri, versus Hate, consistent of Fukigen Def, Azusa Inaba, Raka, and Natsuko Tora, versus Neo Genesis, Azumi, May Sita, and Starlight Kid, and they teamed up with CML's very own Tabitha. And I feel like she could fit in the right group, if that's the case. And I thought the match was pretty great. And of course, we were going to see antics from Hate as always. They always determined to prove that they are the most dominant faction that we've always seen, and they've always done that. And obviously, some things were going to go exactly how we would have expected. But however, what's surprising, it was Azumi that picked up the win with the Azumi Sushi onto Natsuko Tora. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it's over. However, this plays out a significant purpose. For those who don't know, Natsuko Tora, along with Raka, are the current Goddesses of Stardom champions. Basically, they're the tag team champions. So Azumi can issue the right to challenge for these belts. And I'm sure Natsuko Tora is telling them in their minds, you want these title shots, bitch? Come and get them. But remember, don't kid yourselves. You're not winning them. And that's exactly what Azumi might be thinking. Sure that, Neo Genesis needs some gold in their weights. Well, we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, this is for the CML Japan Women's Championship. Azuki defends it against India Sioxis, who, in fact, many of you may know her. She's from CML. She, as you know, been a wrestler her entire. She's a generational wrestler, like her family, of course, her mother too. I'm not sure about her kids, but anyway, it's a pretty good match. They really went all on full on mode hardness on this one, and unfortunately, it was India who picked up the win when she applied a somewhat of a sit down thing maneuver onto her, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, new champion. Now, India did mention not only she wants to defend this belt in Stardom, she would also like to defend it in CMLL, of course, and hopefully we'll see what happens. And I'm sure we will see some Stardom talents. They'll make the trip down there. Now, our next match is the finals of the Cinderella Tournament. We have two sisters. As you know, these two sisters have made it to the top before, and now they're going to win it again. Now, however, there is a bit of a wrinkle here. Rina, as you know, was the last year's runner-up. She was so close in winning this match, but however, unsuccessful when she lost to Sayaka Kurara. But now, she's facing her big sister, of course, who is also a winner of 2024. And now she's not going to let this happen. Of course, these ladies win all out on each other. They not hold back no matter what, because we know Rina is determined to reach the top. Hanan, as you know, is determined to, of course, the only thing I know for a fact, if she wins this, she gets a shot at the white belt. And that's exactly her aim. But man, this match was so intensified between the two sisters. But in the end, it was Hanan with the backdrop driver. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And of course, Hanan had some things to say to her sister, but Rina had nothing to say because deep down in her heart, she felt that she was robbed once again of winning the tournament. However, we don't know what's her next moment, but we do know, of course, she's going to come out a little later dressed up. Now, our main event is the Cosmic Angels, Sayaka Kurara and Natsupoi taking on Hate, consistent of Konami and Sayaka Kurara. Now, this whole thing has begun for a while, ever since Sayaka Kurara has issued a challenge for this belt. And Kamitani says, I already beat you. I don't need to do it again. And she's been stalking her. This is almost a similar what Kamitani did to Tam Nakano last year. But of course, this was hard-hitting. But what's surprising is how this ended. And the commentators had that expression. Kurara actually applied the violet screwdriver. If you guys don't know that move, that's the same move that Tam Nakano uses as a finisher. And it's surprising that she tapped in her Tam Nakano spirit and applied it to the person that took Tam Nakano away from her. But the real question now is this, of course. What's exactly she's putting on the line? And Kamitani told her, she said she's willing to put the red belt on the line if she puts something on the line. And that is, of course, and this was surprising and shocking, and many fans that I read all over social media, some are concerning about this. And Kurara's stake is the entire existence of the Cosmic Angels. Now, Kamitani, I'm sure she likes that, because she is determined to wipe out anything that remains of Tam Nakano, like her existence, of her legacy, that sort of thing. And I'm sure that's something she wants. But Natsupoi had that look on her face like, what the hell? Why did you do this? And of course, the other members, Mizumori, Anu, Sakura, they all had that look in their faces like, why did she make this rash decision? So, yeah. Now, I will do a discussion video on this, and as you all know, I'm a big fan of the Cosmic Angels. I've always have since almost 6 years now. Almost, no, 5.5 years now. But, I have to say, this is something that we definitely could do. And there's going to be a lot of questions asked about this, so we'll see. Now, of course, the entire event doesn't end there without the celebration ceremony of Hana in her dress, of course, getting the award of winning the Cinderella Tournament, and of course she was going to aim for the white belt. However, Konami decided to ruin the parade, attacked her from behind, and put the spray can onto her. And of course, Konami, with that smirk in her face, thinks that she's not going to let this one slide either. Now remember, Konami was the one who put her out of action last year, and I'm sure Hana hasn't forgotten. I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Hana does win the white belt, and I'm sure there's one person who's going to be envy over this, and that is her sister Rina. But we'll see what happens. So stay tuned for more, but also I'll be making my way to work on the discussion video on the Cosmic Angels. I think this will be my 4th time. I'm not sure, but yes. But we'll see. So let's move on to our next review, and that is, of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, day 10 of New Japan Cup. As you know, we're almost there to the finale, all the way to the finish line. As you know, we are already had the first quarterfinals, and now we got the second quarterfinals of the tournament. But let's talk about the non-tournament matches as well. First, we have Masatori Yasuda teaming with Team 100, consisting of Satoshi Kojima and Taichi. They take on the House of Losers, of course, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Yujiro Takahashi, and Chase Owens. Obviously, we all know that there's some deep history between both Taichi and Kanemaru. As you know, they were friends back when they were in Suzuki-gun, and then they started just 4 guys. Then he turned their backs on them and joining these losers, of course. But, of course, we're going to see dirty tactics coming from them. But in the end, we did see, of course, Yasuda pay the price with the pimp juice by Yujiro Takahashi. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Next up, we have Tatsuya Matsumoto teaming up with Toru Yano and Aaron Wolf, taking on the other House of Losers. Now, of course, we've seen how their tactics usually work. I mean, Aaron Wolf, as you know, lost the Never Openweight title to Ren Narita, and I'm sure that Ren Narita is taking that kindly, making his life suffering over that. But, however, Matsumoto suffered deeply, of course, with the leg submission lock by Ren Narita, and just like that, he tapped out. Next up, we have TMDK's Hartley Jackson and Ryohei Oiwa taking on the Knockout Brothers. Now, of course, when it comes to this, we all know that the Knockout Brothers are the current IWGP Tag Team Champions. And I'm sure Jackson and Oiwa will love nothing more to get a shot of those belts if they win this match. However, the Knockout Brothers have shown their dominance since arriving back from their excursion. And that's exactly what they proved, because apparently Well, Harley Jackson suffered by the nightmare sleeper, and just like that, over. Next up, we have the United Empire: Jacob Austin Young, Francisco Kira, Great-O-Khan Henare, and Jake Lee taking on the Unbound Company, consisting of Geto, Taiji Shimori, Drilla Maloney, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji. Obviously, as you know, the war from both these factions continue to escalate. Not to mention, of course, they're determined to prove their dominance to show that they are in control of Stardom in any way possible. But of course, we did see what's his name, Jacob Austin picked up the win onto Geto when he put him away, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our last match involving the New Japan of the non-tournament matches, we have a preview match, of course, or preliminary as you call it. Tomoaki Hamna and Yuya Uemura taking on Yoshihashi and Boltin Oleg. So if you guys know this, it will be Boltin Oleg and Yuya Uemura that will meet at the semifinals. So obviously this was going to play out one way or the other. And of course, they had to find out who's going to pick up the momentum in this tournament. Well, unfortunately, it was Uemura with it was Yoshihashi that picked up the win by the applying the butterfly lock onto Hamna, and just like that, it was over. Now on to, of course, our New Japan Cup quarterfinals. We have Cal Newman versus, of course, Hiroki Goto. Obviously, Hiroki Goto is the strongest person ever. Very tough, to put down. Not to mention Cal Newman is determined to win no matter what. Not to mention ever since the breaking point when Jeff Cobb left, things have changed with Cal Newman. He's like the kind of guy who's telling everybody to shut the F up, This is their time. They're going to rebuild the new empire. And that's exactly what they've been doing ever since then. But the most messed up part is Cal Newman got away with it by using Zane J, of course, distracting. Then he low-blowed Newman. And then just like that, the Princess Curse, it was over. So basically, Newman is crossing the lines here. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, our next match, they are no stranger facing off each other in the past. Shota Umino versus Zack Sabre Jr. Of course, Zack Sabre Jr. has faced Shota Umino before, but this is one of those matches where things are going to go interesting. And of course, Zack Sabre Jr., with his submission techniques, he was definitely going to try to put him away in any way possible. But unfortunately, he ended up being part of the final chapter in Shota Umino. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. So, both Newman and Umino will be meeting in the semifinals. But I'm not sure if they'll be facing each other or however this is going to go. So we'll see what happens until then. So stay tuned for that. But right now, we're done with New Japan. Let's move on with NXT. Alright, final review. NXT. We open up with the NXT Women's Championship in a 3-way match, of course. We have Soruka versus Zarya versus JC Jane. Now, as you all know, I mentioned earlier, Stand and Deliver season. So I guess the obvious question is, who's going to be heading to Stand and Deliver? And that's pretty much the real question. However, we do know the advantage is that JC Jane will have Fallon Henley and Laney Reed involved in this whole thing, basically playing out its purpose, of course, as we've always seen so far. But in the end, of course, we did see Zarya was able to take out Soruka, but of course, the Fatal Influence got involved, leaving JC Jane to slither once again, pick up the cover on Soruka, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, JC Jane retained the belt, and of course, Zarya looks very, very, very disappointed how things did not go according to plan. Now, we have, of course, Ren QCC talking about, of course, for Ren Sinclair in her match against Fallon Henley, with Kendall Gray. However, they did talk to Charlie Dempsey, asking him, what the hell, man, why did you leave? That sort of thing. As you all know, Charlie Dempsey is now a member of Birthright, so But however, of course, Lola Vice did tell her that telling Ren Sinclair the good luck on her match, but also, as you know, Kendall Gray and Lola Vice do have an opportunity to challenge for the NXT Women's title. But that's going to be at another conversation at another time. Now, Ricky Saints did a little promo talking about his tag match with Ethan Page, and it seems that Ethan Page decided to talk about that too. But Joe Hendry decided to try to stir the pot here, of course. That kind of thing, like literally, because here's the thing: Ethan Page was the one who pinned Joe Hendry, and of course, in Joe Hendry's mind, he knows he was the one who pinned me, so by right, he does have a right to challenge me. Ricky Saints is still trying to do that, but however, he did remember that last year in Stand and Deliver, those two faced off each other. So, but things kind of went sideways when both Page and Saints tried to brawl. Joe Hendry fought back, but however, well, Tony D'Angelo did make it clear that he'll be coming for the NXT title. So, anything could happen from there. Now, Birthright, as you know, we're having a nice conversation about their upcoming match for the number in the somewhat tournament for the NXT Tag Team belt. And of course, Mr. Stone had to congratulate on both Finlay and Mr. Regal to say hi to them. However, Mr. Regal, as you all know, was the former general manager of NXT, was telling him that he's impressed by him as interim manager. But he did state that he will talk to Shawn Michaels and try to hopes that maybe make Mr. Stone as permanent general manager of NXT. And I'm sure Mr. Stone loves that. Now, our next match, we have Los Americanos. Rayo, what's his name? Bravo, and Grande Americano taking on the Vanity Project. Of course, the Vanity Project were going to try to use their usual ways. But however, I highly doubt they ever challenge guys like Los Americanos. Ole! So, that kind of sets it out too. But however, it was Grande Americano that picked up the win when he took out Ricky Smokes. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, Mr. Stone was having a little chit-chat with Elio LaFleur. I don't know exactly what. However, Shawn Legacy and Eli Knight had to inform Mr. Stone that there was a problem, that he got injured, that he cannot participate in the tag team tournament. So basically, Mr. Stone was telling Eli Knight that he has two options: either forfeit or find a new partner. But Elio LaFleur decided, look, I got no challenger right now at this moment. I can step up, until he gets better, or whatever the scenario is going to be. So that kind of sets it up right there. However, Soruka, as you know, she decided to ask Mr. Stone to have a match against Zarya for next week. So let's see where that goes too. Now we jump into the Booker T Appreciation Day. As you probably know, NXT was in Houston, Texas, the home turf of course, of Booker T. And of course, Vic Joseph has some heartwarming words to say about Booker T. You know, how much he learned from him. And not to mention, there was a video of people of their greatest moments, learning from Booker T, all of this. And of course, he was touched by it. And of course, the party was interrupted by Kiana Carver. Many of you may not remember, Kiana Carver is LFG. He had his fair issues towards Booker T. And of course, he wanted to say, this is a load of crap. He doesn't deserve, this whole appreciation thing. So he took out the guys from reality of wrestling, because he wants to prove his point that he is dominant. Booker T is nothing but a has-been to him. But thank God for Jasper Troy for showing up. He decided to help out because, as you know, Jasper Troy, his mentor, was none other than Booker T. And I'm sure Booker T is happy with the fact that he had it by his side. But this thing with Kiana Carver is not even over by a long shot. So we'll see how that plays out too. Now, our next match is the WWE Women's Speed Championship. Ren Sinclair takes on Fallon Henley. I thought this match was definitely going to go and fall in favor of Fallon Henley because Fatal Influence have been dominant, but somehow Ren Sinclair was able to overcome it by applying the final wrench, and just like that, it was over. And of course, Jay-Z Jane and Laney Luck, they're like, I can't even believe that happened, but it did. So there's nothing that could happen. Now, Ethan Page and Ricky Saint made their way to Mr. Stone's office. As you know, they're not happy with the beatdown they got from Tony D'Angelo, of course. But they decided that they would have to that Ricky Saint have to step up against D'Angelo, whatever. But we'll see. Now, now our next match is a tournament match for the NXT Tag Team titles. As you know, these guys, whoever wins, will meet Fat and Eve Project at the Stand and Deliver. We have, of course, Hank and Tank, former tag champions, taking on Birthright, Oriah Connor, and Stax. Now, things were getting out of hand. Of course, things took a turn when when they attacked them before the bell, and then, of course, Lexis King got involved, but he was taken out. But they were too blind not to see that Oriah Connor was not. Well, it was no that Oriah Connor tagged in blindsided, giving, of course, Connors to pick up the win when he rolled up Tank, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Birthright picked up the win. Now, Joe Hendry, as you know, wants Tony D'Angelo. He's telling Mr. Stone that he's not going to let this slide for what just transpired. Now, OTM, as you know, were in a brawl against Dark State. That pretty much, it's basically, they've been brawling ever since then. So we'll see where that goes too. D-Hell decided to have a little pep talk with Tatum Paxley, about this thing with her and Izzy Dame. But Tatum Paxley felt like she got it. And of course, Kelani Jordan decided to ruin the mood for Thea Hell. And then, of course, Jada Parker was trying to tell her, just don't listen to her, because of course she lost at the NXT Underground. But however, Thea Hale told her, that she'll take her on next week. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, Fatal Influence, as you know, it seems like things are becoming a little turny here. Like, I don't know, they're looking forward to Stand and Deliver, but it seems Fallon Henley seems lost after losing the Speed title. So we'll see where that goes there. Now, Miles Bourne had a little conundrum with Mr. Stone. Not towards him, more of conundrum involving Stand and Deliver. So he tells him, look, I'm happy that I'm a champion, but I need to find a challenger. So look, I'll set up a gauntlet match about this. And of course, Lexis King showed up, tried to pitch in the idea, saying that he should be the one challenging for that belt because it's their birthright. Obviously, it's a catchphrase now for them. Now, our main event is the NXT North American Women's title, of course, in a steel cage. Well, Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley, well, let's just say all hell broke loose with these ladies for a long time, and they will do whatever it takes to destroy each other. And that's exactly what transpired. I mean, the cage is used as a weapon, as you all know, but it was Tatum Paxley that walked away when she applied the cemetery drive, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she retained the belt. However, in the post-match, while Tatum Paxley was celebrating, she was brutally attacked from Blake Monroe. And just like that, however, it makes perfect sense. As you know, Blake Monroe was the NXT Women's North American champion, and now she wants this belt back, and I'm sure she's determined to have this spotlight at Stand and Deliver, and that's exactly what she wants. So we'll see what happens next week. But as of right now, we are done with NXT. Let's move on with our final thing we're going to do, and that is, of course, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with upcoming events. We do have a few of the GCW, of course, updates on that. As you know, they will be making their way in LA on April 4th for Maniac. Now, two things are going to take place. The GCW World title will be defended. Atticus Cogar will face off against Daisuke Sasaki from DDT. However, recently in a GCW event, KJ Orso and Sam Holloway attacked Marco Stunt. It seems that KJ Orso is demanding a challenge match on this particular day. But the real question is, will Marcus Stunt, of course, answer it? Well, we'll just have to wait and see when that happens. Now, then GCW announced that they will be making their way to St. Louis for Gateway to the Death, and this will happen, of course, on May 15th. And they did announce for the following day in Des Moines, Iowa. No title has been named, but this will happen on the 15th of May as well. And then, of course, in June, we have Tournament Survival, forgot the number, but it will take place in June on the 6th at Atlantic City. So stay tuned for that. So that's pretty much it. Now, as you know, this coming Saturday, the New Japan Academy will celebrate the 3rd anniversary in a showcase on the 21st. Names have been mentioned that will be participating. We have Johnny Robbie, CJ Tino, Raymond Bright, Stephen Borden, the son of Sting, Alan Brees, Casey Farah, and of course many graduates of the Academy. So it's going to be a very interesting event. Now we do have, of course, as you know, the upcoming on the 21st, the House of Glory Super Clash. The Cruiserweight title will be on the line. Infamous will defend it against Sweet Cheeks. Now the next day on the 22nd of March, Sareee-ISM Chapter 11, which is the 15th anniversary of Sareee, she announced that her best friend Natsupoi will be challenging her mentor Kaito Ito, so that's going to be a very fun one. Now, as you know, DEFY Wrestling will be collaborating with Dragon Gate in crossover. They just announced that the DEFY Championship, the current champion, the Bounty Hunter, Brian Keith, will be defending the championship against Suzumu Yoshioka. So that's going to be interesting. Fantastica Mania USA, that will take place on the 12th of April. They just announced Kushida will be participating. As you know, now we got some Las Vegas shows taking place, of course. Let's talk about those. As you know, Pandemonium Pro Wrestling will be in Las Vegas on the 15th of April. Two things have been announced. Johnny Robbie will take on Natsupoi, which is going to be awesome. And they did announce that the Pandemonium Pro Championship will be on the line. The current champion, Amira, will be defending it against Shinai Kai and Saida. So it's going to be a three-way. Then we have, of course, the Dragon Gate Las Vegas show, the Gates of Sin City. That will happen on the 15th. Suzumu Yokosuka will be taking on Marcus Mathers. Then we have the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Multiverse on the 17th of April. They announced Mistico will be participating. And then finally, as you know, Yoshi Puroresu of America will have Lady Luck on the 2nd, on the 19th of April. They just announced that Rina will be making her debut. But however, the current world champion, Ozuki, will be there too. So that's going to be awesome to hear. Now, that's pretty much it for upcoming events. Let's talk about certain developments. AEW has filed the trademark, the Continental Cup, and this happened recently on March 16th. So basically, it's already been filed. I don't know if it's approved or anything, but hopefully it is. Mistico, apparently, as you all know, that it's been said that he is now All Elite. Tony Khan has confirmed he does have a dual contract. So basically, he is in the same predicament, same kind of a contract duel with Persephone, Hechiseto, and Masca Dorada. I don't know who else, but yes, that's pretty much what I've been hearing. On YouTube, Rob Van Dam and his wife Kate Forbes has introduced their twin daughters named Saba and Karma. So basically, yes, as you all know, that Kate Forbes was pregnant and she just gave birth to two twin little girls. I'm happy for them, so congratulations, guys. Wrestling Observer has reported that Will Ospreay, as you know, who made his return to AEW and Revolution, it just revealed that he was cleared weeks before Revolution, so it would make sense, because it does make more sense to make an appearance now rather than like at some point with the time they have. And I thought it was a pretty interesting way. Now, as you all know, former LIJ members Evil and Hiromu, as you all know, they left New Japan not too long ago. It's been reported that they're expected to make their way to WWE. However, this is what we've been told. Both Hiromu and Evil are expected to be in NXT. However, Evil made it clear that he wants to keep his gimmick. So I hope that turns out well, because if not, I'm sorry that Evil might have made the wrong choice. Now, according new reports are coming in about WWE in the office in Stamford, Connecticut, that apparently some workers have AEW action figures and they watch AEW programming, which is kind of interesting. I'm sure that people would have assumed that WWE would not allow this to happen, but it is. I mean, I remember when AEW first launched back in 2019, that many WWE people were watching this on their phones, and that sets it up. But yes, let's see how that turns out. Interesting news. We had a surprise visit in the LA Dojo after Revolution. Andrade Ilo made an appearance there to get some training done, but he wasn't the only one. So was members of the Death Riders, John Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, and Daniel Garcia. Now, many of you knows Royce Keys, formerly known as Powerhouse Hobbs. Apparently, there was some intense negotiations about where they're going to put him, either the NXT or in the main roster. So there was a lot of talk about pushing him into the main roster rather than being in NXT. I know that recently, as you know, Devon Dudley believes that having Jade Cargill in the main roster was a big mistake. Now, I don't know if some people would consider that having Royce Keys go to the main roster rather than NXT is a mistake. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see who responds to that. Now, Tony Khan recently had some things to say regarding about Hangman Page, about no longer challenging for the AEW World Title if he loses to MJF, which of course he did. And he had this to say about him. Let me pull it up for all of you. That way we can get a clear view of it. So this is what he said. It's the same thing with Cody. It was a gentleman's handshake with both of them. They both came to me and said, I want to put this at stake. And both of them, I told them, that sounds effing nuts, dude. Both of them really wanted to do it. And both cases are you sure? And they both said yes. So it's an arrangement we made. Second time it happened, Paige, it was something that known being a man is worth, and we made an agreement. So it's a verbal contract. So this happened, of course, during the media scrum after Revolution. Now, our final development here. Many of you know this person. If you don't, this is Sherilyn Guerrero. She is the daughter of the late Eddie Guerrero. As you may have heard, she is now entering the wrestling business to follow in her father's footsteps. Now, for those who don't know, a couple years back, she made headlines when she accused her stepfather, of course, her mother's husband, of sexual assault. Now, of course, Vicky Guerrero denied that this ever happened. She's calling her daughter a liar and all that. But certain members of the Guerrero family are on her side. Amongst them is, of course, her cousin Chavo Guerrero. As for her sister Cheryl, well, Shaul, let's just say she decided to not get involved in this. I mean, she does love her mom and sister, but this is just way too much. And as for the other daughter, her half sister, well, she says she supports her on her decision on this. But apparently she is now in wrestling training. She's now involved with reality of wrestling, which is Booker T's school and promotion. So let's see how things would turn out. I know that Shaul Guerrero, she may not have had a good career. I don't know what Sherilyn will do, but we'll see. I think that's pretty much it. So let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you know, we have AEW Dynamite. We're entering the aftermath, or the fallout after, of course, Revolution. But the real question is, where do we go from here? That is a good question. And we're also going to see what's going to happen in WWE Evolve, as Jackson Drake will defend the Evolve Men's Championship against, of course, Aaron Rourke. But however, this is Drake's final evolution, as you know. If he walks away with the win, he gets to leave Evolve as the champion. But if not, well, the title goes straight to Aaron Rourke. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. If there's any other reviews, we'll just have to wait and see. But the priority is WWE Evolve and AEW Dynamite. So stay tuned. So as of right now, I will say this, that I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.